You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today, I'm especially excited because we're joined by someone I've been a personal fan of since her Deadline days, Katie Daryl. Katie's a television host, producer, and executive known for her quick wit, rock star interviews, and her ability to spotlight authentic stories. That's something we value deeply here at Lawyer Stories. Connecting people through storytelling. As an alumna of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University, Katie got her big break with Mark Cuban's HDNet, and today she's now best known as the host and executive producer of AXS hit series The Top 10 Revealed. She also dedicates her platform to causes like Cancer Can Rock and the She Rocks Award, and brings her community together every day on Instagram at Katie Daryl. I know that was a lot, Katie, but welcome to Lawyer Stories.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and be chatting with you today.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to do all my introductions. As I enter the grocery store, I could have you just be like, ladies and gentlemen, Katie Daryl, as seen on TV.
Can I do it? I'd be happy to do it. That's amazing. Yeah, no, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to say. You could talk for a long time about all the amazing accomplishments you've had and like where you've started and like where you are now. And of course, like just on a personal note, I connected with your show, Deadline. I graduated law school in 2006. And that was like sort of when Deadline was going on. So I'd be in this like rigorous, like sort of like challenging competitive world, and I'd put on the TV and there was Katie Daryl in Deadline, and
you would see a different type of competition because it was like beer chugging competition.
Well, yes, but
stripper palooza competition.
Yeah, you do have some interesting
making boats out of pumpkins and trying not to die competition.
You had some interesting moments. I think I saw recently a noogie that you gave Piers Morgan, which he really
the noogie.
He really, I was kind of looking at that, and I feel like he really had to hold himself back from getting angry, and he gave you a noogie back. I mean, that could have gone either way, right?
Yes, I did. So that was on the red carpet at the NBA All-Star game. It was at the Los Angeles one. So what was that? It's probably like 2008, maybe 7 or something like that. And yeah, so I was just, shenanigans, silliness, interviewing people as they go down the red carpet and everything. Most everyone was like in a zoot suit of some sort, right? And Pierce, I don't know why I did it, but I just asked him, I was like, have you ever had a noogie? And it didn't translate because I guess in the UK, right?
Like,
maybe they don't call them noogies. I don't know. Maybe it was just a thing from the 80s. And so he goes, no. And I was like, can I give you one? And he said, yes. So, or maybe he didn't. I can't remember if I got official permission, but I gave him a noogie, and you can visibly see him not be psyched about this. Yeah. And I understand because he is on the red carpet. And so now I've ruined his hair, right? So now he has to go down the rest of the carpet, like wondering, do I look like a moron? And I realized this immediately. So I'm like, do you want to give me one back? Right. Thinking like, we're just going to do it fair and square. And he did. And he gave it back to me. And I will say he was aggressive.
Really?
It was a hard noogie. I deserved it. And I knew at that moment he held back and restrained his anger and kind of took it out of my head, but I deserved it. You should not give other people noogies like that.
That was hilarious. If you pause it between like your noogie and then you pause it, you see him sort of just like, what just happened? So no, but that was great. So anyway, what I wanted to tell you was I connected with your show because it just reminded me that there was like this cool outside world with like so many awesome things in it, like the stuff you were doing. And you're locked up in this little like thing reading all the time, and like that was like a slow reader, and then you see what you're doing and you're like, oh man, this is so great. It's such a cool relief to know that this is out there. and you were showing us all the fun things. So, congrats on that. That was a successful show. And I want to just ask you to start off about like your early life and tell us about like you're from Cleveland. Is that what you're from Ohio?
I'm no, not me. I
Okay.
was born in Columbus.
Okay. Okay.
Extended family, like my parents grew up in Cleveland area. But I was born in Columbus, but very quickly
Okay.
my family moved over to Arizona. Although I do get to go back to Cleveland for funerals because tis the time of aging relatives. So I go back to Cleveland. It seems like once or twice a year now.
Oh wow.
But yeah,
Okay.
I grew up doing summers in Cleveland though, which was really
Okay.
fun,
All right.
mingling with my cousins and doing the little league and yeah, catching fireflies. Like I
Catching
remember
fireflies. Wow.
catching fireflies and playing down in the valley. And one of my aunts actually was the manager of the Little Met golf course many
Really?
moons ago. So I love Cleveland.
That's awesome. So, like, you're an alumni of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, Mass Communication. Tell me when, and this is all connected to Arizona State, right? So,
Yeah.
when was your like passion? Like, when did you figure out you had a passion for like storytelling and like journalism and like being on TV and like making your voice heard and going into radio? Like, when did that all come about?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of weird because I wish I had an aha moment.
Yep.
I didn't. I grew up as a theater kid, right? So I always knew I liked performing and having the attention. Um, I wasn't a great actor, so I knew I was never going to like that as a profession. I didn't feel like I had the skill set. I knew at an early age, and then also it kind of just seemed so out of reach. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. What are the chances of me? The idea of going to Hollywood to try to make it seemed irresponsible. I always grew up as a very responsible kid, like saving dollars from your first communion.
Wow.
Congratulations,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So I fell into radio accidentally and was doing radio broadcasts once a week at an AM station in Phoenix while I was in high school. And from there, that kind of became like a little bit, as you would say, like the gateway because they were like, oh, cool. Well, you were doing this like 4 hour shift, but do you want to join like the promo team at the radio station, the FM radio station that's, our sister station in, the office next door. So then I started doing like the promo stuff on the weekends and, I'd listen to like the jocks, the morning jock and the morning team and be like, wow, I wish, one day I could have my own like real radio show and, have a
Yeah.
billboard and stuff. Cause that was back in the day when like radio stations paid for, $1 million morning shows and everything.
Right.
And I kind of was on this path for radio. And even when I went to Arizona State University, that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to, major in broadcast journalism because, I'll study TV and radio and, I can maybe get a job at like the local TV station and those sorts of things. So I interned at the local ABC, station. I continued to work at the radio station. And then my sister, she was working in Washington, D.C. And
Hmm.
this is circa 1999. And she says to me, she's like, hey, apparently MTV's been here snooping around Capitol Hill, interviewing a bunch of the interns because they're looking for reporters to report for the Rock the Vote, Choose or
Right.
Lose
I remember that. Yeah.
thing, that
Yep.
MTV used to do because we're coming up to the 2000 presidential election. And she's like, you should see if they're coming to your campus. And so, I went on the old internets,
Yeah.
circa 1999,
Yeah, I know. Hey, I was at UMass.
and they were not, but they did have
Okay.
an option of send us your audition tape.
Okay.
So I went to the Walter Cronkite School of Broadcasting with my school ID, checked out a camera and a tripod and a
Yep.
microphone and set it all up on campus and put together my own audition tape. And you got to remember, like this is 99. So this
Yep.
is also when things like Survivor's really big too.
Right.
So in audition tapes,
Yep.
people, I mean, millions upon people or hundreds of thousands, right, are tossing in, tapes to be on television. So I sent this tape in, and lo and behold, the producers at MTV saw it and gave me a call. I don't know if it was a phone call or an email. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone. I don't know how anyone got
Amazing.
hold.
You
A
just had to
carrier
be there.
pigeon.
You had to be there right at the right time. You
Yeah,
know.
I probably was waiting by the phone
Yeah.
for MTV or a boy to call me, whichever came first. I was going to be thrilled. So they flew me out to Los Angeles. I
Yep.
remember this so specifically. They flew me out to Los Angeles, and no. No, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead in the story. They said, okay, the next step is you're down to like the finalists, and we need
Nice.
you to put together another audition tape, but you need to show man on the street skills, interviewing people.
Wow.
Something that, has to do with like today's politics, right?
Okay.
Uh, and I was like, the problem was they're like, it's due on Monday. And this is like the Monday before Thanksgiving. And I'm flying to the UK because I'm going to go to London with my sisters.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like, wait, I need to now do this audition tape asking about laws and government issues that have to do with the US while I'm on vacation.
In the UK.
And I couldn't bring the TV gear from the Walter Cronkite School of Broadcasting because they wouldn't let me keep it overnight.
Right.
So I went to Best Buy and I bought a camera,
Wow.
had it like 14-day return policy.
There you go.
Eventually returned that camera.
Hilarious.
I went to the UK. I did a whole interview, man on the street segment, asking about. Oh God! So this is going to make I sound stupid right now. But which one is it? The right to bear arms? Is that the
Two.
Second Amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. So I asked. Them
I'm just happy I knew that one. Okay.
I knew you would.
Honestly,
That's
I'm just
been-
happy I knew it because that would have been okay.
So I asked everyone about the Second Amendment because that was something that could
Right.
relate to the US versus the UK. So I put together this tape and I send it to them. Or no, actually, my friend who was also traveling with us lived in New York. And so it had to get to New York by Monday. She's like, I live in New York. I will hand deliver it for you.
Wow.
So she gets off the plane, she hand delivers it, brings it to Times Square, hand delivers it to the producer. They look at it, they like it. They say, I'm waiting by the phone, and they fly me to Los Angeles for an audition. On the way to the
Yeah.
airport, I get pulled over by a cop for
Nice.
speeding. So I have to try and talk my way out of a ticket. I did not talk my way out of the ticket, by the way. I still got the ticket, but I got to the airport on time at least.
Nice. Good.
Got to LA, and one of the things I remember them saying, MTV, they said, we you have to get yourself to our offices, and then you'll have to get yourself back to the airport. We're not paying for a taxi cab. We'll pay for your airfare. That's it.
Right. Right.
Okay. So I get there, I do have this great interview, really kick it off with everyone. And as I was leaving, they hand me cash and they said, this is for your cab.
Really?
So I knew they liked me. 'Cause
Wow.
They gave me money
That's
to take a cab.
incredible.
I had my cab take me through In-N-Out Burger. I grabbed a burger, got to the airport, went back to Arizona, and a couple days later got a phone call saying, you're hired. Can you move to New York in 2 weeks?
Wow.
And so I moved there and did the presidential election of 2000, choose or lose, rock the vote, rode on the Straight Talk Express with Senator John McCain, got some questions in with Al Gore. And then when my year was up, I moved to Texas and went back to the world of radio with my old radio partners, but then eventually met Mark Cuban and started that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're leaving me obviously right as you probably know into my next questions, but that's incredible. I mean, look, I know we're around like the same. Of course, I looked it up. I mean, I'm born in end of '78, so like I was at UMass Amherst in '99. So I loved like MTV, like I loved like the Real World and all that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I totally remember Rock the Vote. Like that's super cool that you got that experience and started off that way. So like, tell us about Cuban. I mean, I'm a big like NBA fan. I'm a big Celtics fan, and like obviously he's like one of the biggest names out there with Shark Tank and everything. And like, how did your worlds come together?
I love Mark Cuban. I will shout from the rooftops that he has always been an excellent boss. And I've
Awesome.
always had a really great relationship with him. And he's very approachable. I think, the term elevator pitch obviously existed before Mark Cuban, but I think Mark Cuban is the epitome of an elevator pitch. He has his hand in so many companies and he makes himself so accessible for people to
Really?
pitch ideas to him that I think he is the face of an elevator pitch. Because also what I've learned, after working with him for so many years, his emails are like that. You get 3 sentences, cut to the chase, don't waste his time, right?
Okay.
So if you can learn how to write in code for him to
Okay.
decipher, he will engage with you via email and ideas and workshop things.
Wow.
I actually when I was in Dallas, so there I was doing Shock Jock Radio, and this was again the height of Shock Jock Radio. This is 2001 or two. Our station was all FM talk. It had Howard Stern in the morning, and our show right after Howard Stern. So we were on from basically 10 till 2. And it was great, super fun. I mean, if you like the TV show Deadline, basically, this was the FM talk version of that. I mean, Hooters delivery girls bringing us food, twice a week. We would broadcast on Fridays from strip clubs. It was shenanigans. It was stuff that my parents had nightmares about, and now looking back on it, I'm like, ooh, thank God social media really
did. Right. I know, right?
Because I would have been posting terrible stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Now, so there I was in Dallas, and our contract didn't get renewed. One might say perhaps we got fired. I don't know. Whatever. I don't remember us doing anything specific. I just remember we were up for our contract, and I guess it just didn't get renewed, right? And my radio.
That was Deadline. Which one was that?
This was for the FM Shock Jock.
FM show. Okay, gotcha.
So this was before Mark Cuban. So. I heard I bumped into someone a couple weeks later after my unemployment ran out or something, and they're like, "Oh, I heard that Mark Cuban is looking for a co-host for a basketball show, but I think they already hired the person. Sorry, I didn't bump into you sooner and forgot to tell you about this." I'm like, "God damn it!"
But I just wanted to share it anyway.
Yeah, here's some information that you can no longer use. Jerk. So I took that information and I Nancy Drew'd myself for a day and figured out who the executive producer was and left a voicemail and cold call an executive producer and said, "I heard about this gig. I heard you might have someone. I guarantee you I'm great for this job. Just give me a second to talk to you." Got a call back that day, and by that weekend, I was sitting next to Mark Cuban co-hosting a basketball show.
So Katie, had they hired somebody or no? Obviously not, right?
They had.
Or did they like you better? They just liked you better.
These are good questions. You know what? I'm still friends with that executive producer. I should reach out and be like, was there someone officially about to get a contract, and did I swoop in?
Well, I think what's so important here, for everybody listening, is just you can go off what somebody says, but you have to find things out for yourselves. And I think that's a huge thing that you did. It sounds like a piece of the story, but you still went for it. You didn't resign to the fact that somebody took the job. You're like, "Hey, this sounds interesting. I'm gonna find out for myself," right?
Yeah. No, it's true. It was a very go get 'em attitude.
I like it. We like that.
Yeah, so then I got to co-host this basketball show with Mark Cuban for, gosh, it was either 2 or 3 seasons, and it was really fun. I got to go and interview all the different Mavs players and do funny skits, pretend to go out on a date with Mavs Man, and just all kinds of shenanigans stuff. And at that point, Mark, we were sitting there one day, and he's like, "Well, I'm starting this TV network," because this was just on the local CBS UPN, and he's like, "Well, I'm starting this TV network. It's all high definition." What's high definition? No one knew back then. Created the world's first high definition TV network.
Amazing.
It's but I'm looking for programming ideas. So if you have any ideas, let me know. And I truly was like, well, I mean, what if, I don't know, just thinking about it, what if I go to concerts and I film the concerts and I go backstage and interview the rock stars? I mean, I don't know. What do you say? And, I basically invented my own version of, a gig at MTV. And he said, sure, let's do it. So I started doing that show, and it went for over 200 episodes. It was called True Music. Budweiser came on as the sponsor. Each episode, 3 different bands on it. So I interviewed everyone from Ted Nugent to Tommy Lee to Maroon 5 and Chanel. And that show, it went for 4 or 5 years. And then, Mark was like, "Okay, it's time to move on to something else. Let's have you do this show about crazy wild parties across the US. And it's called Deadline. And sometimes you go to the parties, sometimes you just write and voice the stories, and stringers send us the footage. And then sometimes you go on an adventure. So I would find myself driving monster trucks, skydiving in bikinis, joining the circus legitimately.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I know are you still in touch with Mark? Are you still friendly with him?
Yeah, I am. Literally he emailed him last week. So
that was it, because to tell him you were excited that you were coming. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. It was just about you. I was like, "Have you heard of this podcast?" Because
I don't know why that came out from, but all right. So That's amazing. So like how did what was the experience like with Deadline and like how did it shape your voice and like your style as a host? Because it sounds like you had some free reign there, like you were kind of just like doing incredible things. Like when we go on, you're doing funny things, you're doing meaningful things. You definitely got our attention.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I was a young gal in her early 20s who
Okay.
liked to party and have a good time, right? So for me, it was about showing everyone a good time. I was supposed to, be your chaperone, your guide to all the crazy and wild antics across the country and the world, and be lighthearted and fun. And again, this was the early 2000s. This is when was in its prime with Wild On, right? So it was
Right,
kind of
right.
our clap back at that. It was like, okay, you could watch Wild On or you could watch Katie Daryl on Deadline. So it was just all about this party vibe, having a good time, having an adventure. My joke is always, I will try anything once except that. And yeah, it was a good time. For the longest time, it's interesting. People are like, your weekends and your nights must be so fun and wild. The truth of the matter is the party was actually filmed and all televised. When the camera stopped rolling, I was boring and at home and staying in because to me, I'm like, well, if it's not being taped, like
What?
why
Yeah.
do it,
Right,
right?
right,
Like
right.
I work pays for me to skydive and
Yeah.
pays for me to go to the state fair. Why would I buy a ticket to the state fair?
Didn't you
It's
yell like "Tell George
free,
Clooney I love
right?
him"? Like after before you skydived, you yelled like "George, tell George Clooney I love." Was that who it was?
Tell George Clooney I love him.
I was catching up on some clips. All right, like
I love that. That skydiving is
it
so
was just
funny.
so funny because that's like skydiving's like, but you still like had like that sense of humor. I mean, maybe you do love him. I don't know, but you had that like sense of humor where you just like said that and you like jumped out of a plane. It was great. It was wild.
I used to take improv classes and
Okay.
perform do improv, and I think that really helped me because I mean that the show was all about one takes. We you don't get a second take jumping out of an airplane. We don't have that type of budget. So it was like, listen, you better if you're about to jump out of a plane, you better have something ready to say. You better be looking at the camera and you better enunciate and so being witty and thinking on while I'm on my toes or floating in the sky, that's kind of always been my thing.
That's amazing. That's so much fun. So tell us like at Access TV, like you hosted and produced shows. You got more involved in like the background, I think, of things. Like even though
Well,
you were on
yeah,
the show,
yeah.
like
So, like with the music show, I mean, I created that and then I, booked the bands and came up with my interview questions and then sat in on all the edits. So, produced it as well. One would say I was the showrunner and the producer.
okay,
And then Deadline, same thing, it was myself and another producer. We would like be like, hey, reading the newspaper. Looks like there's a Star Wars burlesque in town this weekend. We should go. Cool. You email them and try and get us credentials. I'll, email the camera guys and make sure we get them on hold. So, developing and then writing some of the stories and the voiceover for, those things. So I did that. And then even when it came to like the world's greatest tribute bands, that was an email. Mark Cuban emailed me one day and said, tribute bands, that's your new show. I was like, what? What does that even mean?
and
I
in
mean,
his brevity, that's all he said, right? And like the in the
literally all he said. I mean, I
wow,
could still find the email. And then, and like I said, though, Mark's a great boss, but don't waste his time, right?
right, right,
Don't email back and be like, what does that mean? Do the research, try to get to the bottom of it, and then come back to him and be like, do you mean A or B, right?
right,
And whittle down the answers that way.
yeah.
So I created that series, The World's Greatest Tribute Bands, and it went for like 8 seasons, 80 live broadcast
That's
episodes.
amazing. What's
Um,
considered like a good amount of? I mean, that's amazing. 8 seasons.
Getting close to 100 is always like the big benchmark because at
Okay.
100 in the old television days, that's when you can syndicate. So, when Friends hit the 100 mark, like I guess there's like a bigger dollar
Yeah.
amount when you get to that many.
Okay.
Um, so, but yeah, True Music got to 100, over 100. Deadline got to over 100. World's Greatest got to 80. And then Mark, canceled that after 8 seasons and said, okay, what's your next idea? Another idea, but like, listen, this was a great time because I spent a total of 22 years at the company, which was great. So, this was just another in between where you're like, okay, well, the next idea, and my husband, I have to really give him the credit for this. He's like, I love ESPN and NFL and like all like, watching the clip shows. You guys have never done like a countdown show. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah,
So
that's
pitched Mark, I
cool.
said, what about like a top 10 countdown? And
Yeah.
so we did the top 10 revealed. And during that time, he saw how much it took off and how much the classic rock specific episodes did well. That he said, give me something that's for boomers. And I said, how about the very best of the 70s, a countdown show? How about the very best of the 80s, another countdown show? And so at one point, I had three different shows going
Wow.
where I, created them. One of them I hosted, one of them I was voiceover for, all of them I was the showrunner and the producer for. At one point, I eventually had to start hiring other producers and writers because I simply could not do it all
So
myself.
you were like his. I mean, obviously, you're a very smart, savvy business person too. I mean, you're like his like left right hand person, like in the.
That's so kind. I
In,
wish. No, there are so many other people above
I
and
mean, he's
beyond
asking you for
department
ideas.
that
You're
can.
executing on them. You're researching
But
it, figuring
I
it
did
out.
eventually by the end, I did the last title I had before leaving the company was Vice President of Content and Development and
Okay.
Programming. So I oversaw all the content that was being created internally, in-house stuff. I was in charge of all the pitches that were coming to us from outside companies, like, hey, we've got an idea, we want to make it and sell it to you. I oversaw the acquisition, saying, yes, we would like to grab old Monkeys episodes and Partridge Family
Interesting.
episodes.
Okay.
Yes, let's put that into the lineup. And then I worked with my colleagues to do the programming of it, saying, okay, at 9 a.m. at Mondays we play this. At 9:30 a.m. on Mondays we play this. At 10 o'clock on Saturday afternoons we're going to do a concert stack of all Fleetwood Mac. So the programming of it as well.
How do you tell on like? I always wondered this. Like, how do you tell on a TV like what's getting good ratings or not? I
The
mean, you.
ratings, yeah. Well, you got to pay for them. You got to pay the Nielsen ratings, and
Oh, I
it's
see.
very expensive membership to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay,
And
that's
so then I would analyze the data too. So the ratings would
right.
come in, 48 hours later, and myself and the president of the network, and my colleague Leisha, we would all like look at the numbers and be like, cool, it looks like, this is doing really well on the 7 o'clock, spot. Let's renew it. Hey, let's move this maybe to the 8 o'clock spot. It looks like, we played it once there. And so you just kind of look
I
at
see.
all the numbers and the stats and start do the programming from that way. It's a cool job. It's a great job. It was, people ask all the time because, like, full disclosure, like, I no longer have said job. The network halted all original programming. They're playing repeats of my stuff, so it may look like it's fresh, but there are no new shows, no new content over at AXS TV. And, they laid off like 70% of the staff. I think there's
Really?
like 10 people there
Why?
now.
I mean,
Could
can
be
I ask
wrong, don't
why?
quote me. Apparently, supposedly, whatever. I don't want to get sued.
Wait,
But
say that
so
again.
there's like, what?
So I said say it again, but don't if you don't want to get
No,
sued.
no, 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 no. I'm just saying, I think there's like 10 people there, right? Someone that turns on the lights, someone that presses play.
What happened? Is it just they didn't want to keep going? Is the station done, or like, or you don't
I
have
have
to
my
tell me.
theories.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I have my theories on
Okay.
but nonetheless, so they laid off. I mean, listen, the entertainment industry is hemorrhaging. It's not just Access TV. I mean,
Is-
Disney's done layoffs. Paramount's done layoffs. Everyone's done layoffs. I just think it hit this station harder because it was a small station to begin with and small staff. Now, Mark left the company and sold his majority share
Oh,
back in
okay.
2019. So when all these decisions, and that happened, it was not under him. It was not Mark Cuban that
It was
laid me.
post Mark, yeah. Yeah, no, Mark seems
It
like
was
a
the
great guy.
Canadian.
Mark's a great guy. We love Mark. So
Um,
tell me like a little bit about like your role in like contract negotiations and like that sort of thing. Like I'm just curious. I mean, lawyer
yeah.
stories, you don't have to go too deep, but I just like, did you have to work that through? Like maybe there's like royalties or I don't know what you're doing with that.
Yeah, so that was one of my jobs that I had even back before I was vice president. For instance, when I would work with the tribute bands and book them onto the show, we kind of had a boilerplate contract, if you will, that was
Right.
like, hey, you're gonna come, be on the show, you're
Right.
gonna perform, this is the stipend you're gonna get. When we would book guests to come onto the top 10 revealed and do interviews, we paid people for their interviews because it's their time. So, Dee Snider, Lita Ford, a contract that says, you're going to get paid this much. This is the expectations. These are the terms, usually most of the contracts always are asked for the world, right? We want it
Yeah.
for perpetuity. We want it across all platforms now and in the future.
Right.
And, it's so funny because 80, 90% of the people literally will just sign blindly. It's a one pager and they're just like,
Oh,
whatever.
really?
So because
Okay.
they're just like, listen, I know the show, I know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
and I'm a talking head. And so there's a lot of trust and just not wanting to pay their lawyers to go over things. So a lot of people would sign. But then, yeah, you do have people that will push back and be like, well, I'll give you 3 years, or they would just make sure that's written in that, like, their likeness can only be used to promote this show, not,
Yeah.
AXS TV as a whole and things like that. So,
Wow.
my job
Okay.
would obviously be to make sure that the contract gets to the right person.
Go ahead.
And if they redlined it and if it was quote unquote above my pay grade, then I would send it over to the lawyers. But there are certain
Okay.
things that I would talk to them about in advance and know, yes, go ahead. You can say yes to these type of changes, but not these changes. These
Right,
ones.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, we have like a lot of like entertainment lawyers and stuff in our community, and it's very interesting to even just like review a contract of that sort of magnitude with,
Mhm.
with all these like cool like people who've been in the industry of like created music and all this
Yeah.
awesome stuff. So, do you think this is just kind of like something I thought of? Do you think like you're talking about like a lot of TV is sort of going down a little bit? Like, do you think that's because of like maybe you didn't say that exactly, but do you think like podcasts with the onslaught of like podcasts and like people creating content and clips? I mean, some of these old like when I was growing up, you watch like episodes of like all these different shows, and now it's kind of like I feel like I watch reels or I don't that sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening in the market, and I mean we could talk. I mean this is a whole nother
Yeah.
episode in itself. But content is being consumed differently now. We're
Right.
consuming our content on devices.
Right.
So a lot of it is even vertical, right? Not horizontal.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are cutting the cord, as they would say. So that is hurting these small cable channels, the like Reels and HGTV just did a big cancellation and layoff, and even Access TV. So people are cutting the cord and they're not watching on their big devices. So many people are going to, the streamers, just like, hey, well, I'll just download the Paramount app and watch my shows there so then I can take it with me because I don't want to be tied to this couch, right? So the streamers have really taken over. And then, like you said, yeah, there's this new generation coming up, that really likes to consume biteable ADD programming
Yeah.
that is vertical and it's scrolling, and the attention span is 3 seconds, 5 seconds. If you
I
don't catch them
know.
right there, they won't watch much more. But the chances of them sitting and watching a good old fashioned 21-minute TV show
Mm,
isn't there. So that's why like YouTube really monetizes like right around, what is it, like around that 8 minute mark, and
yeah.
Facebook, gets a lot of monetization at the 3 minute mark, the 8 minute mark. And then you can also, it's so specific now. I mean, back in the olden days, we'd be like, we all watch Friends
Right.
because we only have, 20 great shows to choose from, and this is what
Right.
we watch. Now you could be like, hey, I'm into kitty cats that wear socks
Right.
and hot chicks in bikinis in the background. And there's a channel for that. And if
Right.
not,
Right. Right.
you just start making it yourself. So it's so concentrated to
Yeah.
specific likes and tastes that it is hard. The niche market is real right now. And YouTube is huge.
Yeah.
These content makers that are just doing things on their phones in their basement are now becoming, competitors to
Yeah.
actual studios.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, and the algorithm feeds you what you keep watching. I mean, and then you don't have you just want to watch like 2 minutes of something, and then you want to watch something else. And I know I know what you're saying. It's very, especially if you have little kids who are watching it. Like, it's kind of, it's concerning. But I know we have
It
limited
is,
time.
and
But
it's
yeah,
it's so funny. I have this friend. Her name is Orly, and I want to give her a shout out because she actually makes these really cool purses and straps. So yeah, it's
nice.
called
Yeah.
Rock Knot, but I want to steal this from her. People say like the universe, right? Like what you get put out and ask, you get more of, right? So, oh, I want more rainbows and butterflies, and more rainbows and butterflies are going to come at you. And that's how the algorithm works, though, too. And unfortunately, too many people aren't watching rainbows and butterflies and good, positive, friendly, great content. They are
Yeah.
watching, murder porn and people failing and being mean and superficial makeup and stuff. And it's like, wow, like you're asking the universe, the algorithm to give
Mm.
this to you. And I just am very concerned by that.
Yeah, understood. But tell me about something positive, which is, yeah, so, and I know you're just talking about that because I no, I get it. Like, but I want to kind of shift because I know we have limited time, and I really want to hear about two other like Cancer Can Rock. Like,
Oh,
I know that's like a really like cool
yeah.
thing. I looked it up a little bit. Just tell me about that, Katie.
Cancer Can Rock. This is great. They invited me to be on the board about a year ago, and it is fantastic. Cancer Can Rock is very similar to, think of it like Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? But it's for adults, and it's for adults that are musicians, not professional musicians. We're not talking about the Stevie Nicks of the world. We're talking
Right.
about like the guy who is more than just diddling on his guitar and drums, but can play quite well, decent, one would say, and maybe writes his own song here and there. And so we take these musicians with cancer and we raise money to
Wow.
give them a day to get into a professional recording studio to
Wow.
record their song, and we give them everything they need. So we get the recording studio, we have the producer, they need a guitarist to play background, we get that for them. They need a bass player, we get that for them. They need a drummer, you need a flute guy, you need a harp, we will get you the players to create the song that you wrote, and we bring in a video crew and video it. So there's also kind of like a live music video. So at the end of this 1 day session, you walk away with this experience where everyone that I interview afterwards, like, how was it, says, for a day I forgot about cancer.
Wow.
I had a good time. And now you walked away not only with this experience, but two quote unquote tangible memories from you,
Right. Right.
you
I
know,
was thinking that.
song with your voice in this music video with your likeness, that heaven forbid
It's
things
incredible.
don't work out. Or just later on in life, because we all do, it always doesn't work out. You're always going to die. You
Yep.
have this memory for your family.
Mhm.
So we raise money to make these musical wishes come true.
So you supplement whatever like instrument or whatever the person's a singer. That's incredible. I mean, because
Yeah.
we
And
both
what's
know.
great is we work with like Rufus and Martha Wainwright. Like Rufus Wainwright is like, I mean, both and Martha are fantastic. They were doing a project similar to this on their own in honor of their mom, Kate McGarrigle, who died from cancer. And they were calling it folk cancer. So now we've kind of been working together as a team. So they kind of are our celebrity spokespeople, and they have a big holiday concert every year, and money helps come to the program, and we're
So
able to get
cool.
people into the studio.
I love it because every time I see like Jerry Garcia, I just think to myself, like, dude, your music transcends generations and you started in like the 60s. You know what I'm saying? So music has, if you give somebody the gift of that and they get to
Yeah,
hear it and enjoy it, and then it just transcends like time. You know, so
yeah,
that's like actually an incredible gift. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And then
absolutely. And so you
uh,
just go to cancercanrock.org or folkcancer.org, and you can donate. And I want your money. I want your money. Everyone, please help out, because it's such a cool um, way to give back.
folk cancer, I like it. Is that .com, folk cancer?
I think it's a .org.
Okay. So, and also, congrats on joining the She Rock Awards
Thank
Advisory
you.
Board. I think that's super cool. You're definitely somebody who she does rock. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the She Rocks Awards. This is in conjunction with WIMN, which they say women, the Women's International Music Network. And each year, we put on an award show and we honor women who are trailblazers in the music industry. And we've honored everyone from like the Go-Go's and Debbie Gibson and Linda Perry, Shaka Khan, but not just famous musicians. We
That's
also
cool.
look at the women who are working in this industry,
Okay.
women who work at Guitar Center, women who work at Shure Microphone, the CMO at Gibson
Yep.
Guitars and Fender, and we honored those women. So what's interesting is that I got involved with the organization about almost 5 years ago, I think, when they asked me to host the awards. And so I hosted the awards, and then a year later they said, hey, we're doing the awards again. Can you do like the virtual interviews with some of the people to hype up, ticket sales and whatnot? And so I started doing that. And then after a couple of years of working with them to help them create their digital content, they eventually opted to honor me. And so I got honored and got the trophy in 2025, January of 2025. And then they just reached out to me recently and said, would you like to join the advisory board? So now I'm an official board member at the She Rocks Awards, and I'm helping them figure out, who are we honoring this year, and how's this ceremony going to go down. I believe we already have it scheduled for January 23rd, 2026 during NAMM down in Anaheim. Tickets will be available. I will be there. We can meet, we can greet, we can mingle.
Super cool. Yeah, I mean, that's going to pick up such great. How many years has it gone on?
Oh goodness. They had their 10-year anniversary. I think
10 years?
I posted it. So we're coming up on at least like 15 or something.
10. Okay. Yeah, that's a great thing to be doing. So give me like a favorite moment from Deadline, like a crazy, like, do anything like pops in your mind, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe like I did that, or like.
Yeah, two things come to mind. One is the stupidest thing I ever did in my life, but it was so much fun. I went to Vegas, and there's this show called Absinthe, and it's under the Big Top, and it's outside of the Caesar's Palace, I think. And it had just kind of opened up, was pretty new. It's still going on though. And it's kind of this raunchy, burlesque circus sideshow vibe. And I went there, and I got to, work with a bunch of the performers and learn their tricks and their stunts. Okay, great, easy, right? Well, the tightrope walker, his name is Tony the tightrope walker. He also has this great YouTube channel with his fiance. I believe it's called Angel Loves Tony. They have over 2 million followers. So if you're looking for fun, let's go look at that. But Tony, he said, well, hey, I'm going to walk the tightrope. This is before doors opened. He's like, let's do a segment where like you sit on my shoulders and we walk the tightrope. And I was like, sure. I mean, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
So I sit on his shoulders and we walk the tightrope. And like, just as we're starting, he literally goes, hey, two things, like, don't wiggle. And also like, be careful. You're squeezing your thighs around my neck really tight. And I don't want to like lose consciousness while I'm doing this and pass out and fall. And I was like, sure. Okay.
3, I've never done this before. No.
And so we do this and we get across totally safe and it's fun. I did not know we didn't have a net.
Oh my God.
We did the entire tightrope walk, and we were at least 3 or 4 stories tall without on a stranger who I just met. Probably like hindsight 2020, not a good idea.
Wow.
They didn't have me sign a release form.
They didn't either? Wow, no. That is wild.
I think we did it when management wasn't there, quite frankly. I think he's like, hey, you chick, want to get on my shoulders? I was like, yeah. Oh my God, there is no net. What's crazy is my husband was working with us, and he was one of the cameramen. And he's like, I can't believe I let you do that.
Wow.
He's like, I knew there wasn't a net, but I wasn't going to be the one that told you no. And I was like, you could have at least let me know.
Yeah.
That was really fun, but also the stupidest thing I ever did. Another experience that was crazy. I did get to be a magician's assistant while I was in Vegas. That was rad.
Did they cut you in half?
What?
Did they cut you in half?
Oh yeah, I got cut in half, all the things. I think I disappeared, I also got to work as a showgirl with the Jubilee show and like wear the headdress that's like 6 feet tall. I got to go aerial dog fighting. This was my biggest fail. Aerial dogfighting is kind of what it sounds like, just like in the olden days when fighter planes would chase each other and do barrel spins as they're shooting and everything. You could pay to have this experience and go up in a plane and do the barrel rolls, but with lasers, do a gunfight in the sky above just out the desert in Vegas. I threw up real quick.
Really?
Quick, even before we did a barrel roll. It was just a bouncy day. I'm not good up in the air when there's bouncing, and I get like the churned stomach quickly. So I regret that I went up there, and no sooner are we up in the air and I'm like, I got to throw up. And so I throw up in the doggy bag, and then I was like, we got to go back. I can't do the barrel roll. And then they didn't have other doggy bags. So I proceeded to throw up 3 or 4 more times into the same vomit, which like kind of makes you vomit even more, which is so gross. And so I regret that I couldn't pull my crap together enough to do the barrel roll. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, wow. Well, on that note, I do want to ask you one more question. I know we're over time here, but
it's okay. Take your time.
If you were a lawyer, right? I know it's so like off like what we were just talking about. So if you were a lawyer for the day and you just crushed it in court. Like you just totally like objected to I don't even know. Like you objected to everything. You're really proud of your performance. Yeah, that's exactly hearsay. That's right. So what would your closing argument anthem be? Like if you were walking out of because you're into music. So like if you were like leaving the courtroom, imagine the doors swinging behind you and like I know it's put you on the spot because you love music.
It is because you're like, oh, a mic drop, right?
It would be like Def Leppard or like what would I know it's like AC/DC or like you're closing those like doors to the judge and you're walking out down that aisle.
Oh man, yeah, you have me on the spot.
All right, well I have you on the spot. I don't have to just think.
But I would love to have some AC/DC playing. Yeah. I love AC/DC, like some Back in Black or. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Like I feel like that's more of an entrance song, not the like departing.
That's all right. Entrance is good too, like walking through the court, like the thing, and just going into that's great. I love it.
I'd be like, and that, my friends, is a gag order. Yeah. You're like, that doesn't even make sense.
You can't handle the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And like what Harvey Levin, he used to do like people.
I'm a lawyer.
What's that?
I'm a lawyer. Harvey Levy at the end of every episode, the tagline says, "I'm a lawyer."
Is it? Yeah, I remember on the People's Court, like whoever had that job would like interview everybody out. I thought that was like the coolest job ever to have. Like the dude was outside, like Judge Whopper, may rest in peace, his chambers, and just like interviewing like all the.
I think Harvey still does it.
Yeah, like that was like the coolest thing. Like when I'd see that on TV. So
Harvey was another fun boss. I worked for him for 2 years. I did the voiceover for TMZ.
That's right. What was the voice though? Like what were you voicing?
Oh, well, because all those stories, they, in the newsroom, they pitch the stories. They're like, hey, we grabbed some footage of Britney Spears coming out of the Chateau Marmont. She didn't look that great. And then when I was a producer, writer, and voiceover, and I would write then like a 30 to 60-second story using the paparazzi video footage. And do the voice of like, whoa, Brittany, watch out. You're gonna, in 3, 2, 1, yep, get clocked in the head with someone carrying an umbrella walking backwards. I told you. So it was just kind of doing the voiceover for all those stories.
That's all. Tell us like what's gonna go on for Katie Daryl, like going forward.
I need a job. So if anyone wants to hire me to handle their digital content or be their professional LinkedIn writer, if you're a CEO, to help you create and manage all of your social media accounts and give you a voice and a likeness and create content. I would love to work for a CEO and be kind of their ghostwriter, if you will. But no, I want to, work with a company, helping them make their digital content and overseeing their digital voice, because like we talked about earlier, it's all, that's what it's coming down to. Individual companies are becoming production companies. Yeah. I think Dick's Sporting Goods the other day announced that they were creating a television show. Chick-fil-A has their own in-house television shows.
Chick-fil-A has a television show?
Yeah, because it's all on their own platform. So it's no longer just like, oh, I want to look at the Chick-fil-A app. It's to stop scrolling and watch their 3-minute video to suck the kids in and whatnot. So you're going to see everyone from like, Yeti, and Liquid Death and everyone, not just making TV commercials. They're going to be making actual content that disguised as a show and a video. And it's not going to be someone being like, I'm putting on this mascara. It's going to be, the Sex and the City diaries. And it just so happens that mascara's always being put on at the beginning of the show, and it's Maybelline, right? Yeah, working with a company to help ramp up their digital footprint and their content and oversee their team. That's what I'm looking for.
That's amazing. Wow, that's going to be...
Yeah, well, if you know anyone, let me know.
Oh, please. You got Mark in your corner. You don't need me. No, I'm just... So, no, that's incredible. Like, yeah, we're trying to expand too a little bit, like do some different things, but, we'll definitely like stay in touch. But is there anything else, any other like words of wisdoms that we have from the lovely Katie Daryl?
Words of wisdom. Always be networking.
Love
always
it.
Out there shaking hands, kissing babies, or kissing hands and shaking babies, whichever you prefer.
One day I will have an event in Los Angeles. Sorry. One day I will have an event in LA. I'm trying. So we've done them in New York, Miami, and Boston, but So okay, so always
Well,
be
if you need an MC and a host for the event, because I can do live events as well. So I used to do that for years for Budweiser. I'd go out and host all the Budweiser events and everything. So
that'd be awesome. So always be networking, shaking hands, kissing babies. Probably not the other way around. That's where.
be careful what you put on the internet, folks.
Yes, that is very true. Katie Daryl, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you're following me. My handles are all the same. It's just at Katie Daryl. So you can get my Instagram, you can get my Facebook. I don't really do a lot of X, but yeah, so I'm out there. Follow me, and I'm pretty good at like responding and chit-chatting and everything too.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Stay right there. I want to just snap a photo when we get off. But everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourself.